Hi, I'm Jacqueline.
And I'm Courtney, and this is Caffeinated Crimes.
I feel like our last few episodes have been very doom and gloom. And this the state of this country is incredibly worse than it was when we recorded the last episode you
Hmm.
heard. But just for a highlight, and I don't even know if it's a highlight because it's just demonstrating global warming, but we're just gonna ignore that. But it was such a beautiful day today, the last two
It was
days.
beautiful. I
And
went
let me
on a
tell you,
walk. It
nothing
was
like
nice.
emerges you from that seasonal depression, like that first like sunny 70 degrees, like the sun's not setting at 5 p.m. You can like go outside after work and still enjoy the beautiful weather. It
Yeah.
just brings something back to life in you, you know?
My only fear is there is snow in the forecast next week.
Yeah, I saw that.
So, as you can hear from my little bit of nasaliness, my sinuses don't like it. So I am happy for the warm weather. I'm never
hmm
gonna complain as I then continue to complain. But I just feel like
That's
it
what we
makes the
do.
cold so much colder once you
Yeah.
feel that. So,
It's like you get a taste of
um,
it and then you just go crashing right back to winter. See, I see it
yeah,
from both sides. I see that it makes it that much worse, but I feel like it also gives you that hope of like, we're almost to
yeah,
spring. Like I can
yeah,
feel what it's gonna feel like again.
that's true. It's a little glimmer of hope that we all needed.
Yes, yes, because we need whatever hope we can get right now.
Literally. Which we've been doom and gloom, and I have a classic Courtney shower thoughts
I love it.
to bring to our intro to
Let's
not
do
think
it.
about the doom and gloom in the world. So I said I went on a walk today, so I was in the shower. I was listening to a podcast, true crime, of course, because why not?
That's what we do.
And the host was like, and this is like a case that will make your blood run cold. And I was like, what does that even mean? Like, where did that come from?
Who came up with
Why
this? Yeah.
is that a thing? You know, like I'm sure I can Google this, but it was just not fun to like speculate where
Yeah.
I'm like, blood runs cold. So I'm like, it
Is
shocks
it,
you so much it kills you,
yeah. Is
and
it
then
just
your
like a
blood is cold?
Is it like a shiver, but it's like a whole body shiver? But that's not your
Yeah,
blood. That's like your
it's like
skin.
so much of a shiver that your blood's cold. But I was like, where did
Also,
that
did
come
you
from
just
and what
shiver
does
when
it
we said the
mean?
word shiver? Because I
Yes,
just
I
shivered.
did. I did. But I was sitting there thinking about it, being like, what? And I'll probably look it up, but after we just have a little bit of a healthy discussion about where the fuck did this come from and what does it mean? You know?
I mean, I feel like you could say that with any metaphor. Like, how did it
Yeah,
come to be? But like, everyone knows exactly what you mean when you say
exactly.
that. But is
Everyone's
it
like,
just
blood runs
because,
cold. I know what that means, but what does it mean?
but also is it because that phrase has been around for so long? Or is it
Yeah.
because it's just like an innate thing that like you hear it and you feel it and understand, you
Yeah.
know?
Or what if it's like, because they also reference this in that episode, is that the blood is thicker than water, but like the
Mm.
actual full phrase is like about how the promises to your friends are more important than like your family or whatever. Like the whole
Oh,
phrase, yeah, like the whole phrase is not
huh.
actually about like family being over
It's
friends.
like the exact opposite. Okay.
Yeah, it's like saying how like promise like the family like you make can
Mm-hmm.
be like not better, but like more meaningful. I can't remember what the full phrase is. I'll also look that up when I look up Blood Run School. But like that or like jack of all trades, but then like the second half
Mm-hmm.
is actually master of none. So it's like,
Yeah.
is this something that okay, let me look up the first phrase first.
Okay.
Hopefully I'll try not to type. My nails are very long right now. I'll try.
I'll just cut you out if I need to. Also, I'll look up the other one while you are
Okay.
doing that so we can um what am I looking up again?
Where Blood Runs Cold came from.
No, I thought you were doing that one. What was I looking up?
Oh,
What was
blood
blood is
thicker
thicker
than
than
water.
water?
It's like curiosity killed the cat. Like that. Look at how all these phrases are like way, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Sorry, I'll let you go first.
I'm still looking, so go
Okay,
ahead.
I'll go ahead. So the full phrase for blood is thicker than water is the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb, which means that the bonds formed through shared experiences and loyalty are stronger than family that's based solely on blood relation.
Yeah. So it's like
Wow, that's
we
very
take it
interesting.
from it, but it's like not actually what it means.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm getting to the origins. I can't really see what exactly it means because I looked up blood runs cold meaning and it's just being like when you're frightened and I'm like no shit.
You're like, yeah, I get
Okay.
that. Did you look up
So
like
and this is
origin?
yeah, that's what I just
Okay.
did.
Okay.
And this is the AI overview, so if it's wrong,
Mm,
blame AI, not me. Um so it's just saying it's a metaphor that was used in literature in the 1800s. So
okay.
I also wonder, they didn't know as much about like anatomy and stuff. Like I wonder if
Mm-hmm.
they truly thought like your blood would run cold. But it was referenced in Oliver Twist.
Mm.
Um, so I guess that phrase is used, but that's kind of all I can really see is like can be traced back to ancient beliefs and cultural associations surrounding blood and emotions. In many cultures, blood has long been associated with life, vitality, and the essence of a person. So maybe it's like from that where they're like thinking.
Hmm. Interesting.
But I can't find like I feel like I'm gonna have to do way more research to like fully get what it
Is this
means.
a Patreon episode?
It might be. Let us know because we could also tackle other like phrases like we just did in a Patreon episode because that would be
I think
fun.
I think that would be fun. Year five, our Patreon just goes off the rails. There's nothing true crime adjacent. It's just
Yeah.
us bullshitting.
Okay, Blood Runs Cold was used in a true crime podcast. Boom.
We'll figure out a way to tie it
Connected
in. Everything is criminal. We'll tie it all in.
everything. But yeah, that was just my thought. So
Yeah,
that's Courtney's shower thoughts if you're wondering what it's like in this noggin up here.
it sounds like a lot.
It's a
But I think
lot.
that
It's
was
a
a
lot
much
going
better
on.
discussion than the ones we've had the last few episodes. So
Yeah,
I'll take it. I'll take a little pondering of situations.
of
Also, we
phrases.
never got our peanut butter and jelly shirts made by Ashton. I think we need to get on that. But anyway.
It's oh, yeah. Um, we don't really have any updates like written down. I can't really think of anything.
There was something that happened that I was like, oh, we have to
Oh,
talk about this.
the DC plane and the helicopter crashing into each other?
I don't think so, but yes, that was a big thing that
Because
happened.
that was
Also, there
pretty
was a
crazy.
mass shooting in Sweden today. I don't know if you saw that.
Oh, I did not know that. I didn't know Sweden had guns.
Uh, they're not going to anymore because other countries do something about it when it happens. Let's see.
And there was a plane that crashed in like Philadelphia, I think.
Yeah, I saw that, like a medical transport plane.
Yeah.
The shooting took place at a school for adult education in the city of Örebro in central Sweden. At least 10 killed.
Wow.
And the rest of the article is behind a paywall. So,
Of course it is.
um, but yeah, I mean, usually words are hard. Not common to hear of that in countries other than ours. So,
Yeah.
so tragic. Yeah, and then
Yeah.
both the plane crashes that were horrific. Deadliest plane crash in the US in I think like 24 years is what I saw.
Mm.
Just yeah, so sad. So yeah, but also like we've said the last few times, we're recording, a significant amount of time ahead of time. So obviously you're hearing this like, yeah, that happened quite a while ago,
Yeah,
which I
you're
mean,
hearing
not
this
that
like a
it's,
month later.
yeah, like, so not that it's old news, because obviously it's still like a major event. I don't want to, I feel like saying that kind of like diminishes,
Hmm.
there's a different word I'm thinking of, but it's escaping my brain at the moment. Anyway, all that to say, still very tragic and still keeping all of those families in our thoughts. All right,
Yeah.
so we're just going to get into today's episode. So our sources include an episode of How It Really Happened, which was season 2, episode 3, as well as a People Magazine Investigates episode, Crimes of Fashion, which was season 1, episode 3, as well as a Vanity Fair article, a Harper's Bazaar article, and a CBS News article. Gianni Versace was murdered in broad daylight in front of his Miami home. Police acted quickly to find his killer, but the evidence led them to an active serial killer. So, Gianni Versace was the celebrity designer of the 1990s. He reinvented fashion with bright colors and high art with camp and with theater. It was luxury, like sexy, original, just something very different and very like of the times of the 90s.
Hmm.
He was friends with Madonna, Princess Diana, Elton John, and many more. Gianni was born in Reggio Calabria, Italy on December 2nd, 1946. He worked at his mother's dress shop, and in the 70s, he moved to Milan, which had a large growing fashion scene, and he grew from there. In 1978, he launched his first independent line with his siblings, Santo and Donatella. Gianni and Antonio D'Amico first met at La Scala Theater in Milan in 1982 and quickly became friends. Gianni would invite him to the office and to hang out with friends, and soon it did become a romantic relationship. So they eventually had been together for 15 years. Gianni came out publicly in 1995, and it was huge to have someone like so famous and like openly gay, especially at that time. It really was a game changer for that community. And Antonio said Gianni was sweet and cared so deeply for everyone around him. And by the 90s, the Versace company was $1 billion brand poised to go public. So the paparazzi started going crazy, and that's when Gianni discovered Miami Beach. Antonio and Gianni were on their way to Cuba and stopped in Miami for a bit and explored the city, and Gianni just fell in love with it. In 1992, he bought a place on South Beach that was falling apart and renovated it into a beautiful palace. And it was called Casa Casarina. It was 23,000 square feet with 10 bedrooms and 11 baths, which I would not want to clean that house. That's all I think of, like when I see these, like, which I understand people that have houses this big don't clean their own houses. But anytime I see a house that big, I'm just like, I would not want to clean that many rooms. That's a lot of
That's
rooms.
a lot of rooms to furnish. I
Hmm.
also think I've been watching a lot of like Selling Sunset lately. That's been
Hmm.
like my latest whatever. And they're always showing these houses and they're like, it's a 5 bedroom, 9 bath. And I'm like, where are all these bathrooms at? Why do
It
we
is
need
weird when
so
there's like
many?
more bathrooms than there are bedrooms.
Especially when it's like double
Yeah.
almost. Like
Yeah.
double the bathrooms.
Like, how many people are in your house at one time that you would need that many bathrooms?
I mean, I guess if you live in LA and you're having one of these $1 million homes, you're probably throwing a lot of parties. So
That's
maybe they
true.
just want to make sure that they don't have to rent porta potties.
That's true. Or maybe you just want to use a different toilet every single time you go to the bathroom that day, you know?
Yeah, because so many of like the houses have like his and her toilets, like
Yeah.
separate toilets, like in the same like bathroom behind doors,
Mm,
you know?
interesting.
So like his and her sink, they have a his and her toilet.
That's the next level of wealth
Yeah.
that
Yep.
we will never be at.
Yeah. Nope.
So Madonna even had her own custom-made suite here. And Casa Casarina was in the middle of Ocean Drive and right in the middle of like the nightlife scene in Miami. So Gianni would just regularly like walk up and down Ocean Drive. He didn't have any bodyguards or security. Like he liked to just like be with the people. Like he didn't want to kind of be that like separated, you know? But friends and family were worried because he was growing in popularity and they wanted him to be safe. Gianni felt like Miami was the most safe place in the world. He had fashion shows all over the world in Milan and Paris. Some of the most popular models of the time would walk in his shows, like Naomi Campbell, Cindy Crawford, Kate Moss, and many more. And Gianni would travel the world and then come home to Miami, where he felt very safe and relaxed. In July of 1997, Gianni was in Paris planning and organizing a couture show. And after the show, he was looking forward to going back to Miami and resting for a few weeks. On July 15th, Gianni woke up around 3 a.m., which is 9 a.m. in Milan, and he started thinking about like the show in Rome that Donatella was organizing. Remember, Donatella was his sister and business partner, and they had a very close relationship. So he called Donatella and was like asking her questions about the show, like giving orders about what was supposed to happen, and he then went back to sleep. He woke up at 8 a.m. and spoke to Donatella again, and at that point, she stopped answering his calls because he was supposed to be on vacation. So she's like, leave me alone and go relax.
She's like, I am perfectly capable of putting this show together,
Yes.
quit micromanaging, and relax.
So Gianni then goes and walks down to the news cafe, which he did most mornings. The news cafe was just like the place to go in 1997. He would get his coffee and his magazines before walking back. Antonio said that he loved magazines and would often buy them to keep up with what was going on in the pop culture world. There's no scrolling Instagram at this
Yeah,
point.
there's no Twitter, there's no
Yep.
Instagram, there's no TikTok. It's like the way to know what's happening is like magazines and newspapers.
Yeah. So Antonio came down after Gianni had left the house. He had an early tennis date with a friend, Lazaro, And at 8:45 a.m., Gianni was walking back to his house when he passed a woman who had just taken her kid to school, and they smiled at each other. So then he was leaning over to unlock the big iron gate, and the woman glanced back one more time to look at Gianni, and then she sees a young man walking up quickly from across the street. So he walks up and he shoots Gianni twice in the back of the head. Antonio goes over to the window that faces the entrance to the mansion and sees Gianni just laying there in his own blood. Antonio also saw a guy on the walkway who turned around and smiled at them. So Lazaro started chasing him, and the man who shot Gianni ran down an alley into the 13th Street parking garage to a red pickup truck. Lazaro wasn't able to catch him, so he went to the police, and they also called 911, and Gianni was taken to the hospital and later pronounced dead at 9:21 a.m. So police obviously know that they now have a homicide on their hands. Their first thought was robbery, like you have this like very wealthy, famous man, but he did have over $1,000 in cash and 6 credit cards on him. So robbery seems like not a likely motive at this point.
A pretty bad robbery if that
Yeah,
was
if
their
that was the
motive.
case. So their next thought is that this is like an obsessed fan, like someone who's jealous of him. They know that he was shot twice, and there was also a dead mourning bird on the ground next to him. So apparently, a dead bird is like a classic sign of a mafia hit. So they did an autopsy on the bird, which I never knew there was such a thing, but I guess it makes
In
sense.
the in the episode, he was like, "This is the first time and like only time I've ever heard of us autopsying a bird in a
Yeah,
case." But it was like we had nothing to
yeah.
go on.
And so in the bird, they found a partial projectile of the same bullet that hit Gianni. So basically, the bullet that hit Gianni ricocheted and hit a bird that was flying by. So there was no like mafia connection. It didn't like mean anything. The bird just happened to be in the way. So the family had Gianni's body cremated immediately after and wanted him to return to Milan for the funeral. Donatella said, "They shot my brother like a stray dog. I want to have a funeral like a prince for him." The funeral was held on July 22nd and was an A-list affair. Princess Diana was there comforting Elton John, which is pretty wild because she would be killed a month later. So it's just kind of crazy to think about.
Yeah, like seeing her like comfort Elton John, I was like, I was like, what year did
Yeah,
Princess Diana die? And it was August 1997. I was like, ooh, that's crazy.
yeah, that is crazy. Very eerie. Elton John and Sting both did musical tributes as well, and many believe that the killer did watch the coverage of his funeral. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people were watching this. You would think that the
Hmm.
killer would probably be watching as well. So back in Miami, police go to the parking garage to try to figure out like who this truck belongs to. So the car had stolen South Carolina license plates, but inside they found that it was just like packed with stuff. So there are things that like seem to have no connection. They're from like people and places all over the country. So an FBI agent reaches out to Miami police and they say they believe they know who did this and they've been chasing him for months. So he was actually wanted for 4 murders. They knew that he had stolen a red pickup truck and the FBI confirmed that a 40 caliber gun was used, and this was the same as the bullet casing found near Gianni's body. So the FBI even had the VIN number and it matched. So now they know that they're looking for Andrew Cunanan. They also found that he changed clothes and left his sweaty clothes on the ground next to it, and he also left his passport and a check with his name on it in the pickup truck. So he's like, here are all of the clues that you
Yeah.
need to know my
Hmm.
identity. But who is Andrew Cunanan? Who were the other 4 people that were murdered, and where did he go?
So Andrew Philip Cunanan was odd to many people in his life. He seemed like a liar and a narcissist, and he was also knowledgeable and smart. He was like a high-class sex worker for wealthy men, and he would be very smart at this. So he would kind of research his sugar daddies, see where they worked, and then he would research that subject to appear fairly knowledgeable in whatever they were interested in. So kind of this like he had an elaborate lifestyle and often had lots of money, although no one ever really saw him working. So Cunanan grew up in a relatively modest family, and he was born in a San Diego suburb to Modesto and Marianne Cunanan, and his mother was Italian and his father was Filipino. They had a very dysfunctional marriage. It wasn't a great marriage. And he was the youngest of 4 children, and he was spoiled, and many people are like, it was clear like Andrew was the favorite child, like very much so. He allegedly scored a 145 on his IQ score, and this got him into a very prestigious prep school, Bishop School in La Jolla. And he was going to school with rich kids, so he was kind of able to see like how they lived, how they talked, how they acted. And so now he knows how to act rich. He's like, I'm observing, and that's how I'm going to start acting. And he also soon started lying. So he would tell people he had a dual citizenship in America and Israel and had served in the Israel army. He told other people he was from the Philippines. He said his father was a rich man who'd set him up with a business already. None of these are really true. He just had a high IQ, which got him into a prep school. So,
Yeah.
in high school, he was voted most likely to be remembered. So,
Hmm. That's
poetic.
my brain just
Nope,
completely shut down.
just
It's like
straight blank.
foresight, maybe? I don't
Foreshadowing?
know. Foreshadowing.
I
Thank you.
got you. I got you.
I would have gotten there eventually. Probably not.
Like 5 minutes later, foreshadowing.
It's good.
What?
We're on like a whole, but we're in the perk of the week, and I'm like,
Yeah.
actually, I'm gonna mute myself now. Let you continue because clearly I have nothing of value to add right now.
So Cunanan believed he would be a famous person and go down in history remembered. Cunanan's family often denied that he was gay, but to everyone else in Cunanan's life, they knew that he was gay. So even like after his crimes and everything, his parents are like, I don't know why you keep saying that. Like kind of this like old school mindset, kind of where they were like, no, I don't think he was, but like he was openly gay. Cunanan did have a sugar daddy in San Diego who would take him to Europe and give him a luxury car and give him an allowance. So that's kind of, I guess, how he was getting the money without really working. I mean, not that he wasn't working, but you know. Jeffrey Trail was a warm, friendly, outgoing person and was very genuine. Jeffrey and Cunanan were very close friends. Other friends do not believe they had a sexual relationship, but they were mostly close friends. It's also rumored they were in a sexual relationship. We don't really know for sure. Jeff had come to San Diego when he was in the Navy and had just recently come out as gay. And Cunanan would take him out to clubs and show him around. And Cunanan was never mean to Jeff, but he could be somewhat controlling. So it's not like he was like mean to him or abusive or anything. He just kind of was like wanted to control Jeffrey and like where he was going. And in 1995, Cunanan fell in love with David Madson. So David was a clean-cut, good-looking guy, and David had so much charisma and a big personality. He was an architect, and Cunanan met him in San Francisco, and David kind of kept Cunanan at an arm's length. David's sister, Diane Benning, said that David had told her he didn't want anything to do with him because he believed he was into something shady. Again, some sources say they were dating at one point. Others deny any romantic relationship between the two, especially David's like friends and family, but that is a rumor as well. Can't confirm or deny. But at this at some point, whether they were in a relationship or not, Cunanan was kind of starting to get rejected by David, and also Cunanan's sugar daddy was starting to cut him off. So kind of things are starting to spiral in his life. And also around this time, Jeff says that he's moving to Minneapolis, and Cunanan was upset that Jeff was leaving. And actually, randomly, David Madson ends up moving to Minneapolis as well. So I don't think they moved together. I think they both just somehow ended up in Minneapolis. So in April 1997, Cunanan bought a one-way ticket to Minneapolis and wanted to visit David, as I said, who'd also moved there as well. He told them he was just coming for a weekend visit, but again, he only bought a one-way ticket. He didn't tell them that part. So Jeff agreed to meet with Cunanan at David's apartment and told his boyfriend he would meet up with him and his friends later. And Jeff had told a friend he was kind of ready to end his friendship with Cunanan once and for all. On April 27th at 9:45 p.m., Jeff had gone into David's apartment and things got violent very quickly. We don't know the official details, but neighbors did report hearing yelling and screaming, and some neighbors also said they heard someone yell, like, get the fuck out. It's possibly suspected this fight could have been about Jeff ending the friendship with Cunanan, but Cunanan killed Jeff with a claw hammer, and there was actually 23 blows to Jeff's face, which is
Ugh,
So violent.
that's just like beyond brutal.
Yeah. So the blood was on the walls outside and inside the apartment, and they rolled Jeff's body up into a rug, and Jeff's watch was actually busted and frozen at 9:52 p.m. It is believed that Cunanan stayed with David for a few more days. A few neighbors had seen the two of them walking a dog together days after the murder, but said David looked upset. We don't really know David's role in Jeffrey's murder or why he chose to stay with Cunanan days after. This could be due to fear, could be something more sinister, could be like Stockholm syndrome, since Cunanan is known to be manipulative. So, like, we don't know for sure what was happening with this friendship or why David was staying with him, but he did stay at David's apartment for a few more days. And friends of David were confused because he didn't seem happy that Cunanan was coming to Minneapolis and having to like pick him up from the airport. Like he was like, I don't want to do this. But again, sometimes when someone is like that manipulative and like you kind of get sucked back into that like toxic like friendship, toxic relationship and like do things you know what I'm trying to say? Like you kind of get sucked back in and you're like, okay, he's here again. Like, okay, like.
Yeah.
However, many say David was a peacemaker who liked to avoid confrontation, so it's hard to say what all Cunanan was saying to him during these days. Then Cunanan decided he needed to kill David as well. David's body was found on May 3rd in a lake near Minneapolis, and he had been shot to death. He had three shot wounds, one between his shoulder blades, one like a wound grazing, like a grazing wound on his face, and one in the eye. Cunanan left a bag in David's apartment that was found by police, and in the bag was an address book and his driver's license, so has a pattern of just leaving.
Just gonna leave all of my personally
I
identifiable information everywhere
right?
for you to find when I
Yeah.
commit these horrific murders.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
So so smart. He's such a smart man.
It's that high IQ of his, you know?
Yeah. Didn't come in handy here. So Cunanan had fled the state in David's car, which was a red Jeep, and went to Chicago. And this is where he commits his third murder. Lee Miglin was a Chicago real estate mogul. Lee and his partner had a real estate management team that was very successful, and he'd actually inspired his wife, Marilyn, to start her own company. She was the face for Home Shopping Network, so I think she was doing well as well on her own because everyone's grandma watches the Home Shopping Network. So she was coming back from a trip in Canada and was surprised when he didn't pick her up from the airport because he always picked her up. So she took a cab home and noticed the front gate wasn't locked, which again is odd because she's like, we always locked that. And the front windows were like window curtains were closed. When she walked in, she just knew something was wrong. She was like, all of these things, something's not adding up. And she called the police, and thankfully she did that because the police found his body and she didn't have to. His body was in a pool of blood in the garage. His head was fully wrapped in masking tape, and his head was almost completely severed with a garden saw. He'd been stabbed in the heart with a screwdriver, and two cement bags were also thrown on top of Lee's body that broke almost all of his ribs.
My God.
Yeah, so again, another extremely violent murder. And oddly, this is the very weird part. Cunanan stayed in the house, took a bath, shaved, and ate a ham sandwich.
Oh,
So when Chicago police are looking at that, they're like, this level of comfort is not normal with a random like burglary, robbery. Like robbers, burglars, they're like in and out. We're not shaving, we're not eating a sandwich, like we're in and out. So, a neighbor said she saw Lee Miglin out in the alley the night before he was murdered with a young man. Police and family both say this was a random act of violence, but many in the media believe that possibly Lee and Cunanan knew each other in some capacity. A couple of days later, a red Jeep parked around the corner from Lee's home was noticed with multiple parking tickets on it. It'd been parked there a while, so they're like, that's kind of weird. It's kind of suspicious. So they ran the plates on the car and it traced back to David Madson. That was believed to have been stolen by Andrew Cunanan. So he's just leaving. evidence all around. So, Chicago PD now puts out an arrest warrant for Andrew. And like we said, the Miglin family maintains there was no connection between Miglin and Cunanan before the murder. People do speculate that might not be true just because of Cunanan's comfortableness in the house after killing Lee and Cunanan's history of being kind of a sugar baby to wealthy men. Again, that is speculation. Police and the family say there is no connection whatsoever, but that is speculation. Just putting it out there. So after killing Lee, he takes Lee's green Lexus and heads east. So they actually thought they possibly had him because the Lexus had a car phone, so they could like track the car phone. So Cunanan actually hears this, so he tries to like rip the phone out of the car, and then he pulls into a remote Civil War cemetery in Pennsville Township, New Jersey. And William Reese was the caretaker of this cemetery, and he had a wife, Rebecca, and son, Troy. He loved Civil War reenactments and was actually an extra in the 1993 film Gettysburg. And Troy said his father would always say to him, "Never give up and reach for the stars." So Cunanan marched William down the stairs, stood him against a concrete wall, and shot him. He then stole William's red pickup truck and is on the run again. So after this, they kind of lose him for a few weeks. It is later known he stopped in South Carolina and took plates off of the pickup truck. So the red pickup truck had the South Carolina plate on it, and this is when we know he heads south and goes to Miami. So Cunanan stayed under a fake name in Miami in the Normandy Plaza Hotel. So this hotel is like really close to the beach. It's cheap. It's not like a great place, but if you're on a budget and want to be at the beach, it's a nice place to stay. So, a month after Lee's murder and Cunanan arriving in Miami, he's on the FBI's most wanted list, and he was actually on America's Most Wanted twice. And at one point, an employee at a Miami sub shop called in saying there was someone that looked like Cunanan, and police showed up but missed him by 5 minutes. So they almost caught him
Oh
and
my
missed him.
gosh. Wow.
Yeah. So, as we know from earlier in this episode, while Cunanan is in Miami, he murders Gianni Versace, and police put together all five murders being committed by Cunanan, and there's a mass hunt in Miami for Cunanan. So, some people speculated he had fled, other people thought he was still there. No one really knew until July 23rd. Then they had a little tip. So, on July 23rd, authorities close in on a houseboat on Collins Ave in Miami. So, the caretaker of the houseboat sees that the lock to the houseboat had been broken. So, he stepped inside to kind of see what was going on and heard a gunshot. So, he told his son to call 911. And the houseboat was only like 2.5 miles from Gianni's mansion. And this actually led to like a couple hours standoff, like with the boat, because they believed Cunanan was in there and they didn't know what was happening. So eventually, a SWAT team decided to throw multiple rounds of tear gas in before entering. And in the houseboat, they found a deceased body in the upstairs bathroom, and it was Andrew Cunanan, who had died from a single gunshot wound. So they fingerprinted the corpse and did positively identify it as Cunanan. So that is why, with so much of this, we're like, don't know because he's not here to answer. So we don't know, like, David and Cunanan are both dead. We don't know what was happening
Hmm.
after Jeffrey's murder, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, as far as why Gianni was a target, two people say that in San Francisco they saw Versace and Cunanan together at a club in 1991. So many were like, is Gianni Cunanan's like next patron? Is this who Cunanan was going after? That has never been confirmed, but was said. And we never really will know all the details of why Cunanan did what he did. They were really never able to get his reasoning or talk to him about his crimes. So, one speculation is that Cunanan had recently believed he had HIV. An autopsy confirmed he did not, but many people in his life said that he believed he had contracted it. Contacted? Contracted. Contracted?
Contracted.
Contracted. I was like, that sounds like a business deal. But because you come in contact with it, but
Yeah.
you contract it. Anyway,
Contracted. Yeah.
contract. Yeah. Sorry. Anyway, so
Caught. He got it. He
He
thought he
he
got
got it.
it.
He thought he had it. So autopsy says he did not, but in his mind, he believed he did. So a San Diego AIDS counselor, Mike Dudley, said Cunanan came up to him asking many questions about AIDS, and then said, quote, "If I find out who did this to me, I'm gonna get them." So there are rumors that he was romantically connected with Jeffrey Trail, David Madson, Lee Miglin, and Gianni Versace, all which have been denied from the four like people who knew them. I'm not saying they were. Don't say I'm saying it. I'm just saying it's speculated. Could explain why they were targets if this theory is true, kind of why, because it is so random. Minneapolis, Chicago, all the way down to Miami.
Yeah.
So maybe Cunanan was also just delusional in his mind if he thinks he has HIV and doesn't, and then maybe these are people that he liked or fantasized about. Like Gianni Versace's huge. He knows who that is. Like everyone knew who that was. So not sure. We'll never know for sure why Cunanan did what he did. But these are the murders of Jeffrey Trail, David Madson, Lee Miglin, William Reese, and Gianni Versace. It's so senseless. Like, you don't, like, there's possibly a theory out there, but from everyone who, like, knew all of these men, even Cunanan, like, a lot of
Hmm.
people, like, his own parents are like, he wasn't gay. Like,
Yeah.
no one in life is like confirming these
Hmm.
relationships. So it's like, was it that? I also don't know
Yeah.
if it was the 90s, if it's more like hidden. Like,
That's the thing. It's like,
I,
could the families have known, but been like, we're not willing to say that publicly because of the time and the climate and everything? Or
and
could it have
also
just
like
been complete
after the
bullshit?
fact, like after the fact of like, I don't want to say that, you know, my family member had a connection to their killer.
Hmm.
I don't know. But
Yeah. So sad.
yeah, so sad, so senseless. Like Gianni was, I mean, changed fashion in the
Hmm.
90s. Like he was, I mean, even to this name, like people know Versace. Like people
Yeah.
buy Versace. It's just yeah.
Yeah. Just be murdered in the street in front of your home. Like,
Yeah. Something you did all the time. Just liking to walk down and get your coffee and newspaper, like coffee and magazine,
hmm.
walk back, like, and I just hate
Yeah.
like how worried his family was like about his safety. And then like that's what happened. And then you're like,
Hmm.
and it was
Because of
like
course you like
Antonio.
question like could we have done something differently to like if
Yeah.
you had security, if you had a bodyguard.
But it happened so quick, I don't even know. Like,
Yeah, that's true.
it's like hard to tell. And like Antonio was like so heartbreaking and like the People magazine investigates he was in that episode and he was like, he's
Hmm.
still with me, like we said,
Mm.
like forever, and he's still with me, like in my heart and like all this. And it's like, oh, that's just so like sad. Like, ugh.
Yeah. Like you're supposed to grow old together and then you have to witness that. Like he was right
Mhm.
there.
Yeah. And like all these other men who had like families and friends
Hmm.
and lives outside of Cunanan, and he just
Yeah.
stole that from them. So,
And such brutal ways too. I mean, just
yeah,
like repeated like hammer to the head and like stabbed with a screwdriver and like
it's
just
so crazy,
vicious.
like his quote unquote pattern, because like Jeffrey Trail was like so, like, such a brutal murder. And then
Hmm.
like David Madsen was like, he like it, not that it wasn't brutal. Obviously, any
Yeah.
murder is brutal, but it wasn't as like 23 hits to the head.
Hmm.
And then Lee Miglin is like, you almost sawed his head off
Yeah.
and stabbed him and put masking tape on his head. And then like, I mean, William Reese was just shot for his car, but then like Gianni
Hmm.
Versace is just like a quick shot. It's like, why is this your pattern
Yeah.
of like this brutal and then like a gunshot and then a brutal and then a gunshot? Like, what is happening?
Yeah, just like very inconsistent.
Which is also amazing that like through all of these places, and I think it's just Andrew Cunanan being dumb, but that they so quickly identified
Oh yeah.
like Cunanan being like, okay, he did these, this happened. Like they were on
Yeah.
to him, like they
Because
knew
he's
it. They
also
didn't get to
like
catch him.
dropping his IDs
That's
everywhere.
yeah,
Like,
so it's like they didn't have to work too hard
yeah.
to find it, but it's also like good for them for connecting
Yeah.
it and not,
I mean,
but
because especially being like all over the country, like you have at that time jurisdictions who like would not share any information. So it's like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
even though he left his identifying information behind and like, oh, we have a name, but like weren't willing to like communicate it with other agencies and stuff like that. So like that, is promising for that time.
Yeah, and like the FBI coming in and like the Miami police car, I was like, okay, okay, yeah, we do have a
Yeah.
red pickup truck. And then they said the 40 caliber, and he was like, okay, like it's
The
lining
pieces
up.
are
And then the VIN number, he
clicking.
was like, okay, yeah, this is, yeah, you're
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So,
Well, for our little transition to something a little happier, Courtney, what is your perk of the week?
so my perk of the week is that I read the new Fourth Wing novel, Onyx
Mm.
Storm.
Okay, how was it?
It was good. I liked it more than Iron Flame. I know,
Okay,
hot take.
okay.
I was not a huge fan of Iron Flame.
Hmm.
The Not to give too much away, spoilers here. Not a big spoiler, but if you're someone who doesn't like any spoilers, it'd be a minor spoiler. The miscommunication storyline, I cannot do.
Yeah, yeah.
I can't do it.
Especially when it's
I,
like drug out. It's like, okay, come on. Like,
it's like, just talk.
yeah.
You can literally talk inside each other's heads. Just talk. But so rereading it the second time, because I did a reread before, because I
Hmm.
was like, I don't remember anything that happened.
Yeah,
I need to refresh. So reading it back to back, I appreciated it more. It still wasn't my favorite. I still didn't love it. I really thought the new one was like good though. I think it laid
good.
like good groundwork for like the next ones. Like
Hmm.
ends on a freaking cliffhanger again, of
That's what I've
course.
heard.
But I really liked it. I thought it was good.
Good,
So
good. I'll have to add it to my list this year. I'm gonna get to
whenever.
it this year. Okay,
I believe in you.
yeah, it's gonna happen
You can
in
do it.
2025.
I just tried to read it quick because I was like, someone's gonna spoil this for me.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about too. Like anytime I'm like online, I'm like, nope, don't like
Yeah.
trying to
You see a
avoid
little
it. Yep.
yeah. So
They're
yeah,
gonna be
I
like,
was
man,
like
this girl hates this book. Get it off her algorithm.
yeah.
She swipes so fast every time.
Yeah. Your whatever the equivalent of the FBI is in China is like, ooh, she doesn't like that. Keep scrolling, keep scrolling. Take that off her algorithm.
Oh
Yeah,
gosh.
I was also like super, maybe this is me being the anxious bunny I am. Is that I got super worried about my reading schedule because I wanted to read it and then I had to read like our book club book and I also have
Uh-huh.
my work book club book that's like
Hmm.
our book club's on Saturday and my work book club is on Tuesday
Oh
and I
geez.
like freaked out about my reading schedule. And I
It's
was like,
hard when you have to
how am I
try
going to
to
get
like
all of
fit
this
it all in
done?
and they have
Yeah.
to be fresh enough where you can like remember and
Yeah.
discuss and
So I really got to finish our book club one so I can start my next book.
how
But
far into it are you?
like halfway.
Okay. I mean, I think it's a pretty quick read. Not that sounds bad because it's not like a like it's I'm so invested in it that it's a quick read, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Anyway, so that's my perk of the week is I was stressing about my reading, but I did read Onyx Storm and I really enjoyed it. So that is my perk of the week. Jacqueline, what is your perk of the week?
Also have to add that, we just had to cut out like 5 minutes of us talking in depth about that book. So you're welcome
We
if
didn't save it for book club.
you're like, you guys are still talking. Like we cut out a lot for you. Okay, so my perk of the week. So this is gonna sound like one of those perks of the week that you're like, okay, Jacqueline, you ain't got nothing going on. But it's the legitimate perk of the week because it has brought me so much joy. So,
I'm scared.
Courtney, I don't
I'm
know.
scared.
I don't know if you remember at the end of my pregnancy when I was like, I just really want chicken salad. And and chicken salad when you're pregnant is kind of iffy on like if you can have it, where
Hmm.
you can have it from, whatever. So the last couple of weeks, Andrew has been like meal prepping grilled chicken so we can just like have it throughout the week for like salads and sandwiches and like using it in different ways or whatever. And I was like, I think I'm gonna try to make a chicken salad. And so, I get my chicken and my mayonnaise and some salt. And I was like, I need something like crunchy though. Like you gotta have something more in here. So in my cabinet, I just happened to have, and I pulled up the image on my screen. So if you see me looking at it, so I can read you all the ingredients. But we have this trail mix called Sunkissed Omega 3 plus 6 mix. Okay. So, because you hear trail
Did you
mix,
put M&Ms in your
that's all like you hear trail mix and you think what, but it's not like a normal trail mix. So that's why I have it up to read you the
Okay.
ingredients. But it has pumpkin seeds, almonds, walnuts, cranberries, mango, and sunflower seeds. And so I saw that and I was like, that seems like it could work in a chicken salad. It is so
That
good.
feels like a lot, but
But
yeah,
I mean, I don't put a ton of it in there. Like it's just like
yeah,
a, you know,
enough.
a very
Yeah, like
small
you
amount
gotta
so there's
have.
like
I don't. You gotta have like a nut. You gotta have like a grape. I love a grape.
yes.
I love eating and biting into a grape in a chicken salad.
Same,
Like,
same. I love a grape and a chicken salad. And I was like, I don't have anything else to go with here, so I'm just gonna dump this in and see what happens. And the first time I made it, I put like a very small amount in because I was like, I don't
mm-hmm.
want to ruin if it's like. And then I was like, oh, that's good. So now I'm like, still don't put a
Dumping it
ton,
in.
but put in significantly more. But it's been delicious.
Which, if I don't know when, we could just make a time to have a lunch date. But chicken salad
Yes,
chick is amazing.
good to know. Good to know because
It's so good.
I've seen it and I'm like, is it good? Is it
It
not? Is
is
it
really good.
okay?
My
Let's
mom
do
and I
it.
had it, and it was really good. She had one that had like nuts in it.
Hmm.
Um, obviously did not. Like I had like a jalapeno-ish one. It was very
Oh,
good, but
interesting. Yeah, we definitely need to do that because
yeah.
I definitely been on like a salad. I don't know if there's like a word for like mayonnaise salads, but like chicken salad, egg salad, like
Oh
those.
my God, an egg salad sounds so good right now. I have like
Eh,
5 dozen eggs in my fridge. I'm gonna make egg salad.
You should. Andrew made me egg salad this weekend, which he's never made egg salad before. But like I was about to make it, and then the baby needed to eat, so he's like, "Oh, I'll make it for you." And he's like, "I don't know what I'm doing," and I was like, "This is what I
It's
put in
really easy.
there."
It's just kind of like mayo. I put like Dijon mustard. It's kind of a game changer. And
Oh,
then
I've never done that.
it was really good because I looked up because I was like, what should I put in it? Like I want to be
Hmm.
bougie about it. And Dijon mustard in it. It was
Mm,
very good.
that sounds
Um,
very good. Yeah, I just
yeah, so
do mayonnaise, mustard. I like a heavier mustard than mayonnaise
same.
ratio. Salt, pepper, and
But that's how I like my deviled eggs too. Like I want them more mustard. I don't want it
same.
more mayo.
Yeah, same.
Anyway, my God, have we been talking for way
We are
too long about
still
books and
talking.
foods? Wow, we're still recording. I forgot. Anyway,
Now
if
that
you
we only
want to tell
record
us,
every other week, we just got a lot of bullshit
we
to
just
get
have a
out of the
lot to
way.
say. If you want to tell us about the books you're reading, if you want to tell us about your chicken salad or egg salad recipes, or your like, I went to make this and put something like kind of weird in it and it was amazing, like tell us about that. I want to try it.
Wait, are you
Um,
implying that my trail mix and my chicken salad's weird, Courtney?
no,
Because
I'm saying like it's one of those things that you're like, I don't think this would sound good, but then it
yeah,
is good. You
yes.
know, it's like you're taking a risk on it. I
Hmm.
won't be trying Jacqueline's chicken salad, but I will trust her
Well,
process.
also because there's nuts in it, so I would
Exactly.
hope
That's why
not.
I won't be. It's not because it's because I can't. Um, if you want to tell us about that in your life or what your thoughts on this case are, if you want a Patreon episode about Blood Runs Cold, the phrase, all of our information is in the show notes. And if you want us to do that Patreon episode and you want to listen to it, patreon.com/caffeinated crimes. That's where you get all these bonuses. We're up to like 50 something bonuses. They're coming out every month. It's flying off the shelves. Not really, but if you want to join, um, you can do so. Patreon.com/caffeinated crimes. I already said that. You get a bunch of different perks, Discord, pin sticker. You know what? It's laid out so beautifully there. Just go check it out for yourself.
And while you're out there on the internet, if you want to give us 5 stars on Spotify, on no, that's Spotify doesn't have
Apple? Yeah,
stars.
it does.
Does it?
Spotify has stars, yeah. You can also comment on specific episodes on Spotify now.
I did know that. I just thought for some reason it was like a YouTube, like a yes or a no. But I guess yeah, they do have
Mhm.
a star system. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere that you can leave us a rating and say that you like us, so we are more visible to other people who might like us. We would greatly appreciate that.
Um, but in the meantime, go have a cup of coffee.
And don't commit a crime.